The millionaire laughs at the beggar girl's warning seconds before a shocking disaster. Oliver Hawthorne owned the skyline. From his extravagant penthouse in the heart of the city, he looked down on the bustling streets like a king surveying his kingdom. Everything about his life screamed success. The sleek black cars, the tailored suits, and the gold-plated everything. But behind the glass walls of his luxury home, a different story simmered. Despite all his wealth, a dark, cavernous emptiness invaded his soul. He felt untouchable, yet utterly alone. It was one of those crisp, bright afternoons when everything seemed perfect, until it wasn't. As he sipped his expensive bourbon and gazed out at the world that admired him, a fierce shudder rocked the building. The picture frames rattled, and for a split second, confusion filled the air. That's when he heard her. A girl with dirty clothes and wild hair stood at the edge of the street, her eyes glued to the sky. "Sir, you need to get out, now," she yelled, her voice breaking the calm. Oliver laughed, hard, deep, and dismissive. The absurdity of it all brought amusement. Who was this girl to warn him? He waved her off, as if she were a pesky fly. "Just another crazy street kid," he muttered under his breath, shaking his head farther into his comfortable oblivion. But as the earth growled again, the walls around him shivered like a beast awakened, and he felt the weight of fear pressing against his chest. In a flash, the world he knew began to fall apart. The floors beneath him twisted and bucked. His laughter evaporated, replaced by survival instincts as he grabbed the nearest sturdy piece of furniture to anchor himself. The once luxurious surroundings crumbled. Shards of glittering glass fell like rain. Panic surged as he realized he couldn't get to the exit. He was trapped. Mia, the girl, rushed inside, her eyes wide with determination. "We have to find a way out," she shouted, her urgency cutting through his shock. As he regained his senses, the girl's fiery spirit struck him. She moved swiftly, her bare feet barely making a sound on the shattered floor. In that chaotic moment, they became strange allies, fighting through the destruction that surrounded them. Every tremor reminded him of his unfamiliar vulnerability. He watched Mia as she navigated the wreckage with almost unnatural ease, her intuition guiding her through disaster. "You have to focus on your breathing," she instructed, a fierce calmness lacing her voice. "Don't let fear take over." He felt a lump rise in his throat. Suddenly, this young girl possessed a wisdom he had long forgotten in his gilded cage. Amidst the chaos, their connection deepened, yet shadows lurked in the corners of their struggle. Unseen watchers were drawn to Mia. Not all who sought her were kind. A chilling sense of danger curled around them, whispering reminders of his own past transgressions and the shadows it cast. With dust dancing in the air and sirens wailing in the distance, Oliver stood at a crossroads. Would he abandon his old life for the chance to help someone who reminded him of the human spirit? Or would he cling to the hollow security that once suffocated him? The ground shook again, sending a jolt through both their bodies. The chaos rolled into a crescendo of uncertainty, and time slipped through their fingers like sand. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button down there to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The tremors pulsed through Oliver's body, his heart racing. He had never felt so lost, so unmoored. Beside him, Mia was a whirlwind of grit and determination, her bare feet gliding effortlessly over shattered glass and splintered wood. Her presence was a stark contrast to the opulence that surrounded them, which had now turned monstrous. "We have to go!" she shouted, urgency simmering beneath her calm exterior. But just as he regained his bearings, the building shuddered again, this time more violently. The ceiling cracked, sending debris raining down. Oliver barely dodged a piece of falling plaster. "Move!" he screamed, following her as they darted through the swirling dust and chaos. Outside, the cacophony of sirens grew louder, but the promise of safety felt increasingly distant. Mia reached a doorway, but it was blocked by a heap of rubble. "Shit!" she cursed, scanning for another exit. Oliver's mind raced. He was still grappling with the realization that this girl, this beggar girl, was the one who had shaken him from his comfortable stupor. Without thinking, he reached out, grabbing her wrist as she turned to look at him, a flicker of determination in her wild eyes. "Follow me," he urged, and together they rushed towards the opposite end of the hall. The building groaned. A deep, monstrous sound erupted from above. It was then that the lights flickered out, plunging them into an enveloping darkness. Panic surged. "Mia," he called, but his voice echoed, swallowed by the void. "Oliver," she replied, her tone sharp with fear. "Stay close, I can't see." His hand brushed against cold metal, a stair railing. Without a moment to waste, he grabbed her again, pulling her towards it. "This way!" The air grew thick with dust as they stumbled down the stairs, every step a desperate race against time. Suddenly, a deep crack resonated through the building. The very structure was protesting, screaming for release. And then, silence. Oliver stopped. "What was that?" he whispered. But before Mia could answer, a thunderous crash echoed behind them, a wall collapsing in a cloud of debris. They both spun around, eyes wide, breath caught in their throats. As dust began to settle, shadows emerged, moving in the haze. "No, we have to keep going," Oliver yelled, a primal instinct kicking in. But it was too late. Out from the rubble stepped 3 figures, their expressions masked by the growing shadows. A chilling recognition washed over Oliver. His heart dropped. "What are you doing here?" he stammered, disbelief coursing through him like ice. Mia stood beside him, confusion flickering across her face. "You know them?" Before he could respond, the tallest figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face, one he thought he had left in his past. "You never sought us out, Oliver. You ran away," the man sneered, his voice dripping with coldness, like poison on a wound. "What's happening?" Mia asked, backing up slightly. Oliver's breath hitched. Everything came flooding back. The debts, the decisions he'd made to bury the truth. And here they were, his past emerging from the shadows, intent on claiming him. Before he could finish, the floor beneath them shook violently again. Walls distorted, and a vast crack split through the ground. He felt Mia's grip tighten on his arm. This panic painted her face. "Run," he shouted, but the words felt hollow. Mia's eyes darted between him and the figures, understanding dawning. The person she'd trusted wasn't who he seemed. Suddenly, light pierced through the dust. Outside the windows, a dawning sky emerged, as if the world were leaning closer, ready to witness the truth unfold. "Oliver!" her voice broke through the chaos. "What are they to you?" But he didn't have time to answer before the ground beneath them cracked open, revealing a void of darkness. In that instant, everything shifted. Choices he thought were buried rose to the surface. And in the final moments before the world fell away, Oliver realized nothing would ever be the same. The shadows loomed closer, closing in around them. And as everything slipped from his grasp, he could only wonder, how far would he fall into the dark? The shadows loomed closer, closing in around them, and Oliver felt a cold grip tightening around his heart. Mia stood beside him, her confusion giving way to fear. He could barely breathe. The darkness felt alive, pulsing with each tremor, and then something, an unnatural silence. Before anyone could process what was happening, the figures advanced. The one in front reached out, a twisted grin spreading across his face. "We've come to collect, Oliver," he said, a voice so familiar, yet laced with undeniable malice. Mia's hand slipped from his grasp as she stumbled back. "What do you mean, collect?" she gasped, looking between Oliver and the imposing figures. The walls creaked in response, shadows stretching like hungry fingers. "Your debt," the man sneered, edging closer. "You thought you could run? Leave us behind?" Oliver's throat tightened. Memories splashed across his mind. Each face, each lost promise. "I'm not who you think I am," he choked out. But the truth burned in his chest. He had hidden for so long, thought he could escape. The tremors roared again, and he felt the entire building shudder like a wounded animal. Then came the twist, the sudden realization that blindsided him. "This isn't about money," the man growled. "It's about family." Oliver's stomach dropped. Family? What did he mean? His breath hitched. "What are you talking about?" he asked, forced calmness slipping away. But before the man could answer, the floor broke beneath them. A deafening crack ripped through the space, and Oliver felt the ground shift like an angry wave below him. Everything lurched. He grabbed Mia, instinctively pulling her close. But the ground disappeared. They were falling. The world blurred around him. Chunks of debris flew past, time stretching out impossibly. Then, impact! They crashed into something soft, a darkness surrounding them, but not suffocating. Gasping, Oliver blinked through the haze. He found himself in an underground cavern. Dim lights flickered eerily, revealing a space lined with broken memories, photos, faded toys, remnants of a life long lost. "Oliver!" Mia shouted, scrambling to her feet. Her urgency pierced through this fog. "What is this place?" I don't know," he stammered, reeling, "but it can't be real." Suddenly, the tallest figure from above loomed down into view. He moved like a phantom from a nightmare. "Welcome home, Oliver," he said, voice dripping with a mixture of triumph and contempt. As Oliver blinked, the pieces began to fit into the puzzle of his life. The secrets he thought buried came rushing back. No, it can't be," he murmured, his heart pounding. Mia regarded him with concern. "Oliver, what aren't you telling me?" But before he could answer, the cavern erupted with voices, whispers of the past, spilled into the air. "Ollie, we've waited so long," they chorused, the echoes mingling with the dust. Panic gripped him. "Get away from me," he yelled, backing into Mia. The shards of his past flared to life around him, each voice a fragment of his hidden history. "There are things you don't remember, things we'll show you," the figure said, taking a step closer. Just then, a blinding light swept through the cavern, illuminating faces from his past. Each one was tied to the darkness he'd tried to escape. His family, lost, shattered, standing right before him. Oliver gripped Mia's arm, heart racing. They've been looking for me. All this time? The world spun, a tide of revelation. The shadows didn't only hide old debts, they held the truth about who he was. Mia's eyes widened, terror mingling with disbelief. What does this mean? Before he could answer, the floor shook violently again. You have a choice to make, Oliver, the tall figure breathed, eyes glinting. Face your past, or let it consume you. With a heart pounding in his chest, Oliver could only breathe out the words that hung in the air. What if my past is worse than I thought? As the light flickered, he knew there was no going back. But the real question echoed louder than the chaos around them. Could he confront what he had been running from all along? The floor shook beneath Oliver, and he felt his world fracturing into jagged shards. He was trapped not just in a cavern, but in a past he had tried to escape. The figure's words echoed in his mind, heavy and dark. It's about family. What does that even mean? Oliver gasped, panic clawing at him. She looked at Mia, hoping for clarity, but her face reflected the same confusion. The whispers started again, those familiar ghosts from his childhood. Ollie, you left us, they wailed. Each voice stabbed into his heart, memories flooding back like a rising tide. Mia, he choked out, but the shadows whispered louder. A truth he hadn't been ready to face loomed like a thunderstorm. I can't. And then, just as he thought he'd drown in the memories, a sudden roar filled the chamber. The structure shivered violently. A brilliant light burst through the darkness, illuminating the cavern in a stark blaze. The shadows shrieked in agony. Oliver shielded his eyes. What now? The light twisted and morphed, taking a form he never expected. Mia stepped forward, her figure shimmering. Oliver, she yelled, her voice breaking through the chaos. What did you do? He felt his heart fall. Beneath her fierce exterior was something darker lurking. What do you mean? His voice cracked. Did you really think you could just forget us? She was no longer the innocent girl he had tried to save. The shifting light around her revealed flickers of something else. Something powerful. Forget what? He whispered. With a sudden movement, Mia's form dissolved, leaving a glowing silhouette in her place. Shapes emerged from the light, revealing the fractured essence of his past. Friends, family, spirits that lingered just beyond his grasp. And then, a chilling realization hit him. No! Mia, the girl he had trusted, was the embodiment of everything he had run from. She was part of this twisted tapestry, woven into his fate. You. But before he could finish, two figures stepped into the glow. One looked familiar, the face of his brother, Benjamin, long thought gone. You thought we wouldn't find you? He spat, voice clawing at Oliver's insides. No. The ground rumbled ominously, echoing his dismay. Every choice you made led to this moment. The third figure added. His father. You think you can erase us from your life? Oliver's breath caught, reality spiraling. You're alive? He dared to hope. But the dread in his gut told a different story. The light grew brighter, squeezing the breath from him. We didn't know who you were until now. His brother said, eyes glinting with something cruel. Suddenly, it dawned on Oliver. The truth was darker than a nightmare. Mia, no, you can't be. But even as he spoke, the truth twisted around him like chains. In a flash, the light enveloped the room, brighter than he'd ever known, revealing a darkness that he couldn't fathom. His once beloved memories twisted into something grotesque. He was a traitor to his own family. With each pulse of the light, He heard them, their voices amplifying the reality, crashing down like breaking waves. You let us suffer. You abandoned us. Suffocating in despair, Oliver faced Mia, or what she had become. She wasn't just a girl anymore. She was a reminder of every betrayal, every regret he tried to bury. Mia, what do we do now? He stammered, helpless in the chaos closing around him. But as she whispered, a sound like thunder broke the tense air. The cavern shuddered once more. In a heartbeat, the ground vanished beneath them. As they plummeted into the abyss, Oliver felt terror clawing at his chest. Was this the end? Or the start of something much worse? And there it was, that flicker of fear combined with a gut-wrenching realization. What if we never get back? The question hung heavy in the air, the darkness beckoning with promises worse than any nightmare. The darkness enveloped them, a cold embrace as they fell deeper into the abyss. Oliver's heart raced, panic gnawing at his insides. He grasped Mia's hand, tighter, terror spreading through him. This couldn't be the end. But then a bright flash erupted below them. A shimmer of light caught his eye. What was that? The ground rushed up fast, but they didn't crash. No, they landed softly, as if the void had transformed into a cushion of thick clouds. Oliver blinked, confusion clouding his mind. He and Mia stood at the edge of a vast, luminescent pool. It sparkled, casting an ethereal glow across their faces. The air hummed with energy. A faint lullaby filled the space, echoing from the walls. What is this place? Mia breathed, her wide eyes reflecting fear and awe. As Oliver opened his mouth to answer, a figure emerged from the shimmering waters. It was a woman, shimmering as if woven from pure light. She stepped forward, her face a blend of familiarity and strangeness. Oliver's breath caught. "Mom, is that you?" "Mama?" Mia whispered, confusion etched across her features. But before he could process the jarring reunion, the woman reached out, her voice a melodic whisper that slipped into his ears. "Oliver, my sweet boy, you've returned." Oliver's heart twisted. "What do you mean I've returned? I've been trying to escape all this." The figure sighed, sorrow visible in her luminous eyes. "You cannot escape your past, my love. It is woven into your very being. You need to face it, together." Suddenly, a wave of understanding crashed over him. The pieces began to align. What he had hidden, what he had run from. "But I don't understand. You said we were lost, that I had to find my way." "You did, but not without sacrifice." Her voice turned deeper, resonating with power. "To reclaim your life, you must confront those who linger in the darkness." His heart sank. "But my family, Benjamin, my father, they're part of the shadows." Mia stepped back, realization dawning on her. "Wait, are you saying they can come back? Is that what this place is for?" "Yes," the glowing figure replied, sadness turning to strength. "Here, life and death weave together. They await your call." Oliver shivered, dread pooling in his stomach. What if I can't face them? What if they hate me? Suddenly, the ground shook violently. The pool rippled, a dark wave crashing against its edges. The luminous figure turned alarmed. "You must make a choice, Oliver. Call them or be trapped between worlds forever." The faces of his family flashed before him. His brother's anger, his father's disappointment. Fear twisted in his chest. He hesitated, pulse racing, teetering on the edge of despair and hope. What if they come back angry? What if they blame me? "Mia!" he shouted, urgency brewing. "What do I do?" But Mia stepped forward, her voice steady. You can't run away anymore. You have to face this. You owe it to them and yourself. Before Oliver could reply, the woman urged him. Time is escaping, Oliver. Call them now. With a deep breath, he shouted, Benjamin, Father, I need you. The words boomed, powerful, yet laced with fear. The pool trembled, light swirling as shadows gathered at its edges. He opened his eyes wide, heart pounding. Would they rise? Would he be ready? But as the waves surged, something unexpected happened. A dark shadow broke free, not his brother or father, but something far more sinister. It lunged forward, a horrific amalgamation of all his guilt, raging and howling. As it consumed the light around them, Oliver's heart sank. The reality crashed down. This wasn't simply about confronting his family. It was about facing the worst parts of himself. Suddenly, everything spiraled into chaos. The figure of his mother screamed, a flicker of horror crossing her face. Oliver, run! But how could he escape? Himself? The darkness rushed at him, hungry, and he could only gasp, clenching Mia's hand tighter as shadows closed in. He felt the ground quaking beneath him, and the light began to fade. What's happening? He shouted, dread coiling in his gut. He had awakened something terrifying, and now there was no going back. With the last flicker of light, Oliver stared into the abyss, uncertain if it was all truly over or just beginning. The darkness rushed at them like a wave, and Oliver felt Mia's grip slip. Everything twisted around him, shadows closing in. But then a blinding light erupted, slicing through the dark like a knife. Oliver! Mia screamed, her voice clear above the chaos. The shadows recoiled, a cacophony of howls echoing behind them, but the light pulled him forward, compelling him to step closer to the shimmering pool. Stay with me, he shouted back, lunging to grab her hand again. But as he did, something changed. Mia's form flickered, and in that instant, her fierce determination evaporated. Her eyes widened in shock. What's happening? She stammered, her voice trembling. The luminous figure of his mother sensed it too, backlit like a guardian, her face twisted with concern. You must confront what's hidden, Oliver. Their truth, your truth, has a life of its own. Before he could respond, a figure emerged from the pool. It wasn't just any shadow. It was Benjamin, Oliver's brother. But something felt different. He wasn't angry or hateful. No, he looked lost. You called for me, brother, he said softly, eyes glimmering. Oliver's heart sank. Benjamin, I thought you were dead? Benjamin interrupted, shaking his head. No, Oliver, I wasn't dead. I was lost, just like you. Confusion danced in Oliver's mind. But how? Why didn't you come back? Why did you leave me? I had to find my own way too. His brother stepped closer, and Oliver felt a pull, a connection he didn't expect. You think you're the only one trapped by shadows? The air crackled with tension. Mia's gaze swept between the brothers. What's going on? Why don't you confront your father? Why are we even here? As the weight of her words settled, the figure of their father stepped forward, his presence imposing yet strangely calm. Because, son, the truth hurts. You faced a physical ghost and accepted it, but you've never faced your own emotional ones. Enough with the games, Mia shouted, frustration bubbling over. What are you really hiding? And then, everything shifted. The air grew thick, and without warning, the ground shuddered violently under their feet. At that moment, the shimmering pool darkened, the glow replaced with a deep black. Ripples surged outward, as if the fabric of reality was fracturing. Oliver reached for Mia, but her expression shifted to horror. "Look," she gasped, pointing toward the pool. From the depths emerged a familiar figure, dark and twisted, a grotesque reflection of his past. It was him, but not him. It was younger, angrier. "You think you can just forget? You've always been a coward." "No, no, stop!" Oliver cried, backing away, heart racing. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst. "This isn't me." Mia stepped closer, fear etched on her face. "What is this? What does this mean?" "Everything you buried, Oliver. Every choice you made." Benjamin's voice trembled, layered with something deeper, something painful. "It's coming back to claim you." The figure in the dark smirked, holding reality hostage. "You think you can run from your own self? You have to face me to escape." Oliver felt his world crash down. Memories flickered. Betrayal, anger, despair. It all intertwined into a nightmare. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" But before the figure could answer, the dark void expanded, swallowing the brothers' words. Suddenly, the air around them crackled, and the shadows began to twist and turn, morphing into something horrifying. Then the surprise hit, the true jolt that left him breathless. Mia stepped forward. "This was never about you, Oliver. It's about me." "What?" he sputtered, but the air was thick with her revelation. "You? What do you mean?" "I'm not just a girl, Oliver. I've been waiting for you to figure everything out." The shadows darkened around her, her form glowing more intensely again. "I'm your guide, your light, but I'm also tied to your deepest fears." Heart racing, Oliver struggled to comprehend it all. "What kind of twisted game is this? Are you with them? Why, did you save me?" But Mia smiled through her tears. "Because you needed to see the truth. The truth you've hidden for so long. You've been fighting me all along." The ground trembled furiously, the shadows screaming. But Oliver felt something shift inside. Could he truly be the architect of his own pain? As he stood there, realization hit. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. Who was she? What was happening? Before he could utter another word, the dark figure lunged forward, and the luminous pool exploded with light, blinding him momentarily. He felt his heart race, not knowing what would emerge from the chaos. And as the dust settled, he found himself standing alone on unfamiliar ground, the echoes of his past whispering, threats in the distance, leaving him questioning everything he once believed, and realizing he might not even remember who he truly was. The darkness swirled around Oliver, an enveloping fog that tried to pull him under. His heart pounded like a drum in his chest. "This can't be the end," he whispered, glancing at the shimmering pool, desperate for a sign that hope wasn't lost. But Mia stood frozen, her eyes wide, as shadows threatened to engulf them. "Oliver, look out!" she yelled, pointing. He turned, and for a heartbeat, time froze. The twisted figure from the pool surged forward, its voice a chilling echo of his own. "You really thought you could run away from me? You're not ready for this." Oliver's breath caught in his throat. That voice, it was him, but not just any version of himself. This was a younger, angrier reflection of everything he had buried deep within. It stepped closer, a wild look in its eyes, filled with rage and hurt. "I am your truth, your failure." "No, you're wrong!" Oliver shouted, stepping back. But the shadows around him morphed, swirling like a cyclone, cutting off his escape. Then he felt it, a tugging at his heart, a deep-rooted shame rising like bile. "I forgot you!" Oliver cried, the words spilling out. "But you don't have to own me!" The doppelganger smirked, mockery oozing from its voice. You think you can just get rid of me? I've been you. You can't escape what you truly are. What am I? Oliver shouted, desperation spilling into his voice. What do you mean? But before the figure could reply, the ground beneath them trembled violently once again. The walls of the cavern echoed, a low growl of uncertainty. Suddenly, the pool erupted with light, blinding them for a moment. Then came a sound, a low hum that vibrated through their bones, pulsating like a heartbeat. An overwhelming warmth rushed over Oliver, and he turned to find Mia glowing, her form shimmering like it was made of stars. Mia! He reached out, awe and fear twisting together. What's happening? What are you doing? Oliver, listen, she urged, her voice steady even in the storm. This is our moment. You need to embrace all of who you are. Before he could respond, the darkness surged again. Oliver turned back, but the figures were gone. His brother, his father, the shadows, they vanished into mist. Fear coursed through him. Had he lost his chance? The pool swelled with blinding light, and Oliver felt a pull, drawing him forward. He hesitated, then stepped closer, peering into the depths. What are you waiting for? Mia pushed, eyes pleading. Oliver took a deep breath, the air thick with tension. Together, he said, squeezing her hand. But just before they could leap into the light, a deafening crash echoed. The cavern shook violently, and a massive wall of shadows tumbled down over them, a wave of darkness crashing around. No! He screamed, lunging for Mia. But the shadow swallowed her whole in an instant. Mia! Panic clawed at his insides as he stumbled back, churning waves of darkness rising around him. And then came that shocking twist. The doppelganger laughed cruelly, revealing a darkness Oliver hadn't expected. You didn't think it was just your past, did you? Oh, Oliver, she's part of it too. Suddenly the ground shifted again, and an image formed in the air. Mia, but this time her innocent smile twisted with shadows. Her eyes gleaming with something darker. What? He stammered, confusion hitting him like a punch. Where was the girl he had known? The figure became clearer, merging into Mia's image, her face blanking into a smirk. Didn't you know? We're bound together, Oliver. One soul, split in two. Oliver's mind raced. No, it couldn't be true. You can't be serious, he shouted, disbelief flooding him. How could you? But before he could finish, the ground trembled again, and the cavern split open, a gaping abyss ready to swallow him whole. With shadows whispering secrets in his ear, Oliver felt his heart freeze. So it's all a lie? The girl I tried to save? Mia's figure flickered, and the shadows closed in, pulling everything into darkness. You'll never escape. Oliver. The last thing he saw was her face twisting into that mocking grin. Welcome to your truth. And everything collapsed into the shadows, leaving Oliver gasping in the suffocating void, on the brink of a new nightmare he never saw coming. The darkness closed in around Oliver, a suffocating black fog that felt like it was swallowing him whole. Heart pounding, he reached for Mia, but her form twisted, flickering like a candle in the wind. Mia! He shouted, desperation slicing through his voice, but the shadows just laughed, echoing their mockery, cold and cruel. Welcome to your truth, Oliver, the twisted figure sneered, drawing closer, its eyes glowing with malice. Do you even understand what you've unleashed here? No, he cried, a sudden surge of understanding hitting him. This isn't real. You're a part of my fear. But as he yelled, the very shadows around him seemed to pulse with agreement. They were alive, taunting him, dancing as if this were their stage. Then everything rocked again. The ground beneath his feet gave a violent lurch, and for a moment he thought he might topple over. But just as he steadied himself, something unexpected happened. A piercing cry broke through the tumult. It tore through the chaos, clear and resonant. Mia's voice. "Oliver, look!" she screamed, her eyes wide with terror. And something else. Recognition? He turned to face the pool, and what he saw stole the breath from his lungs. The surface shimmered, rippling like a disturbed lake. Emerging from the depths, a figure slowly took shape. It was not his brother, nor his father, but a girl, a younger Mia, barely older than a child, with sad eyes that reflected a haunting sorrow. "Mia? Oliver?" Gasped, confusion gripping him. Who is that?" Tears welled in Mia's eyes, and she stepped closer to the shimmering image. That's me," she whispered, a tremor in her voice, before everything went wrong. "What does this mean?" His chest tightened, heart thundering. How could this child hold the key to her present? "I don't know," she shouted, panic invading her voice. As she reached out towards the shimmering reflection, the shadowed figure lunged, ready to lash out. "No!" Oliver cried reflexively, throwing himself in front of Mia, arms wide. The dark entity clawed at the air. But just as it was about to strike, a blinding flash erupted from the pool, engulfing them in white-hot light. For a moment, everything froze. Shadows recoiled, screaming as if scalded by the brilliance. "Face what you've always feared," the echoing voice rang clear, resonating through the air. In this moment of calm, everything shifted. A weight fell from Oliver's chest. "Mia, we can do this," he shouted, emboldened. They could face this together. But before he could grab hold of that burgeoning hope, the light flickered and shattered. He felt the ground tremble, the world around him spinning into chaos. Then the light shifted. It morphed, shaping into something powerful and terrifying. The childlike Mia morphed, changing form, and the air crackled with energy. The image transformed into a vision. Haunted eyes, now angry, twisted into a face that mirrored his own fear and shame. "Do you see it?" Now, the new figure shouted, voice resonating with disdain, a grotesque mixture of Mia and himself. "You thought you could escape? This is who you've created." Oliver's heart dropped. The realization struck like lightning. "Mia, no. You're a part of me? When you abandoned me, I became this," the figure snarled, voice layered, echoing with anguish. "All the pain you turned your back on. You thought you could rewrite the past?" Shocked silence fell, and Oliver's spine went cold. He staggered back, trying to grasp the magnitude of what stood before him. Mia, the real Mia, trembled beside him, her expression shifting from shock to horror. You created this? You made me?" "No," he shouted. "I didn't mean to. I wanted to save you." Suddenly, pieces fell into place. His anger, his fear, his attempts to run. This was his doing. He didn't just hide from the past. He had warped it, twisted it into something dark and unrecognizable. The beings around him twisted and screamed, but their cries were just echoes of his own guilt, echoing through the depths. With a final shake, the cavern writhed around them, darkness swallowing light. And in that torrent, Oliver could only think one desperate thought. "What have I done?" As the shadows closed in again, he knew one thing for certain. There would be no escape without confronting the truth. And that truth was darker than he could ever imagine. The darkness closed in around Oliver, a suffocating black fog that felt like it was swallowing him whole. Heart racing, he reached for Mia, but her form twisted, flickering like a candle in the wind. "Mia!" he shouted, desperation slicing through his voice. But the shadows just laughed, echoing their mockery, cold and cruel. "Welcome to your truth, Oliver." The twisted figure sneered, drawing closer, its eyes glowing with malice. "Do you even understand what you've unleashed here?" "No," he cried, a sudden surge of understanding hitting him. "This isn't real. You're a part of my fear." But as he yelled, the very shadows around him seemed to pulse with agreement. They were alive, taunting him, dancing as if this were their stage. Then everything rocked again. The ground beneath his feet gave a violent lurch, and for a moment he thought he might topple over. But just as he steadied himself, something unexpected happened. A piercing cry broke through the tumult. It tore through the chaos, clear and resonant. Mia's voice! "Oliver, look!" she screamed, her eyes wide with terror and something else. Recognition? He turned to face the pool, and what he saw stole the breath from his lungs. The surface shimmered, rippling like a disturbed lake. Emerging from the depths, a figure slowly took shape. It was not his brother, nor his father, but a girl, a younger Mia, barely older than a child, with sad eyes that reflected a haunting sorrow. "Mia?" Oliver gasped, confusion gripping him. Who is that?" Tears welled in Mia's eyes, and she stepped closer to the shimmering image. That's me," she whispered, a tremor in her voice. "Before everything went wrong." "What does this mean?" His chest tightened, heart thundering. How could this child hold the key to her present? "I don't know," she shouted, panic invading her voice. As she reached out towards the shimmering reflection, the shadowed figure lunged, ready to lash out. "No!" Oliver cried, reflexively, throwing himself in front of Mia, arms wide. The dark entity clawed at the air, but just as it was about to strike, a blinding flash erupted from the pool, engulfing them in white-hot light. For a moment, everything froze. Shadows recoiled, screaming as if scalded by the brilliance. "Face what you've always feared." The echoing voice rang clear, resonating through the air. In this moment of calm, everything shifted. A weight fell from Oliver's chest. "Mia, we can do this!" he shouted, emboldened. They could face this together. But before he could grab hold of that burgeoning hope, the light flickered and shattered. He felt the ground tremble, the world around him spinning into chaos. Then the light shifted. It morphed, shaping into something powerful and terrifying. The childlike Mia morphed, changing form, and the air crackled with energy. The image transformed into a vision. Haunted eyes, now angry, twisted into a face that mirrored his own fear and shame. "Do you see it now?" the new figure shouted, voice resonating with disdain, a grotesque mixture of Mia and himself. "You thought you could escape? This is who you've created." Oliver's heart dropped. The realization struck like lightning. "Mia, no! You're a part of me?" "When you abandoned me, I became this," the figure snarled, voice layered, echoing with anguish. "All the pain you turned your back on. You thought you could rewrite the past?" Shocked silence fell, and Oliver's spine went cold. He staggered back, trying to grasp the magnitude of what stood before him. Mia, the real Mia, trembled beside him, her expression shifting from shock to horror. You created this? You made me?" "No," he shouted. "I didn't mean to. I wanted to save you." Suddenly, pieces fell into place. His anger, his fear, his attempts to run. This was his doing, He didn't just hide from the past. He had warped it, twisted it into something dark and unrecognizable. The beings around him twisted and screamed, but their cries were just echoes of his own guilt, echoing through the depths. With a final shake, the cavern writhed around them, darkness swallowing light. And in that torrent, Oliver could only think one desperate thought: what have I done? Just then, a loud crack split the air, a deep rumble. The light shot from the pool like a bolt of energy, striking the dark figure. And with a yelp, it shattered, breaking apart like glass. Then silence fell. Oliver blinked. Mia turned to him, eyes wide, confusion turning to horror. What just happened? But before Oliver could respond, something climbed out from the remnants of the dark figure. It wasn't just a shadow. It was memories. Fragments of voices rose, washing over them. His father's voice among them. You are never alone. We are all tied together. They swirled like a storm, each memory glowing, twisted with secrets. Suddenly, a sudden realization clutched at Oliver's heart. A truth buried, hidden so deep he didn't want to see it. Mia, he stuttered. What if we're not just facing my past? What if this is about you too? Before she could answer, the remnants expanded, and Mia's features started to twist painfully. What do you mean? She asked, fear edging her voice. The shadows pulled back momentarily, revealing a picture, a family portrait. Faces he recognized, mixed with faces he didn't know. And that girl, why did she look so familiar? Oliver's breath caught. That girl! She looks like you! But, as the realization flooded in, pain shot through him. No, he gasped. Are you connected to all of this? The room shook violently, and the shadows behind them twisted into blurs of color and memory. Every thread tying them together snapped into focus, bringing a tension that made his bones ache. Oliver, I don't understand, Mia cried, gripping his arm. Words bubbled up from the depths of his mind, threatening to shatter everything he thought he knew. You have to remember, Mia. We have to uncover the truth before it's too late. And amongst the chaos, as they looked past everything, the real horror dawned. Who they truly were might bring them together, but also tear them apart forever. The cavern shook violently as Oliver's thoughts crashed together. The image of the younger Mia stared at him, her face a mirror of hurt and longing. You don't know how it feels to be broken, the agitated figure screeched, morphing into a tempest of emotions. Mia stepped forward, her eyes fierce. Stop, she shouted, pulling Oliver back. We can't let it take over. He felt the weight of her courage. His heart raced, fear mixing with an unexpected spark of hope. The memories whirled, a torrent of shadows and light, binding them together. Tell me the truth. What do we need to do? The truth, the twisted reflection spat, is that you have always run from who you are. Your pain, it paused, eyes narrowing. Your pain created me. Oliver clenched his fists. He felt the anger rise, not at Mia, but at the darkness that had haunted him for too long. I don't accept you. You're not real, he cried. Mia and I are more than this. As if stirred by his resolve, the shadows shuddered, swirling around him. The cavern, vibrating with energy. You think you can just shatter me? The darkness roared, fury pulsing through the air. But the light from the pool intensified, brightening, illuminating the darkness like dawn breaking. Stand together! Mia urged, gripping Oliver's hand tightly. In that moment, he felt the connection between them, a lifeline pulling him from the abyss. "Let's face this," he whispered, and together they took a step toward the swirling chaos, hearts pounding in synchrony. The dark figure shrieked as they advanced, rage boiling over. "You'll regret this. You'll always carry your shadows." "Maybe," Oliver shouted back, defiance clear in his voice. "But they don't control me anymore." With that declaration, he surged forward, and the light expanded like a wave, crashing against the shadows. They wrapped around him, a tempest of fear and pain. But Oliver held on to Mia's hand, anchored by their friendship. As the darkness writhed, twisting and changing, Oliver felt a release. Memories popped like balloons in his mind, long-buried moments he had locked away. "I am not just my failures," he roared. "I am love. I am strength." With each word, the shadows twisted and pulled, but the light grew brighter, wrapping them in warmth and hope. The figure shrieked once more, and then it fractured, revealing glimmers of light beneath the surface. "This can't be!" it cried, and before they could respond, the darkness exploded, scattering into a million tiny shards of glittering dust that faded into nothingness. Silence enveloped them. Oliver and Mia stood in the now peaceful cavern, battered but unbroken. With their breaths steadying, they turned to face one another. Did we do it?" Mia asked, tears shimmering in her eyes. Oliver smiled, the warmth of possibility engulfing him. "I think we did, together." But just as they were about to embrace, the cavern trembled. A small fissure opened in the ground, lights flickered, and shadows danced just out of reach. "Wait!" Mia exclaimed, taking a hesitant step back. "What's happening now?" Oliver felt his chest tighten. "I don't know, but we can't let it go." He could sense the lingering shadow. Something still wanted to drag them back to the darkness. In that moment, hope illuminated their faces. "We'll figure it out," Mia said fiercely, determination burning in her eyes. "I won't let this be the end." With that, they stepped closer, united against whatever came next, ready to fight again. But what lay ahead? Would the darkness ever fully subside? Before the cavern could reveal more, everything shifted again, and they vanished into the unknown, leaving Oliver breathless with uncertainty and anticipation. Hey, before you go, you must subscribe right now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming up. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't you dare leave without sharing this video instantly with 5 friends who need to know about this ending. You can click on that next exciting story right now. So stick around and let's dive into more adventures together.